The Chiefs suffered their first loss, barely passed the Panthers, and have a divisional matchup during this Thanksgiving break. All that on the home of the Chiefs.
Welcome, Chiefs Kingdom. Thanks for tuning in to this Red Kingdom media production, bringing you raw, authentic Chiefs coverage. Make sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on your team. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
Welcome to this week 13 edition of the Home of the Chiefs podcast, where the Chiefs are our home. We are your hosts, Clinton and Shannon, and we are going to be discussing the past two matchups the Chiefs have had, one of which was unfortunately suffering their first loss. And barely getting past the Panthers. But then we also have our final discussion where we talk about the Black Friday game the Chiefs have on their schedule against the Las Vegas Raiders. So let's go ahead and jump right on into it. We're of course going to start with our first topic. So we are of course here in the Chiefs. Unfortunately, the undefeated streak is over, and the march for a special three-peat is off, and now it's just a regular three-peat. But the Bills have a chance to now celebrate and gloat that they got their yearly regular season matchup win over the Chiefs. So what are your thoughts about this game and now that there's officially a loss in on the Chiefs column for them, and how they're kind of processing that game?
I just think it's funny that we're like, oh gosh, this is so sad, and like, oh man, we're not undefeated anymore. And it's like, I kind of knew it was coming, but even though it happened, I still feel like this team is special, and I still feel like if we do make this three-peat, it's still going to be that like year that we're always going to remember, despite whether we are undefeated or not. So I am not like, I'm kind of just meh about it. Like, it was disappointing at the time and stuff like that, but I'm over it now, and I'm just like, yeah, let's go. Let's keep moving forward, and seeing them win again on Sunday was just kind of like that, like, nail in the coffin. Like, yeah, we're still in this. We're not gonna like be defeated because of this one game that we lost. But I do think that we do have some problems we need to address with the Chiefs and how they are going to go into the playoffs moving forward, because they have been struggling. We've been seeing them like not work as much as they were working in the beginning, and it's like, why? And I think the coaches need to figure that out and stuff. So we'll get into that soon, but I think all in all, it was disappointing, but I'm over it now.
Was a little more upset watching it at the time, but there was this overwhelming feeling that the Chiefs were very fine when letting that game slip out of their hands and officially taking a loss. Nobody on the team was really thrilled about the prospect of going undefeated. And I think everybody thinks that that's more of a fan idea, that you just win every game. Because winning one game in the NFL is hard. Winning week to week to week is hard.
Oh, yeah.
And, the Panthers conversation will live up to that, because, the Bills, this Bills game was the first kind of indicator that there may be some problems. And the teams that they were playing, or the circumstances that they were dealing with, they weren't, overcomable or achievable or whatever you want to call it. Things were starting to stack against them, and they could no longer, break through the wall that they may be building themselves at times. That Bills game started in the first two plays. They already started themselves in a hole, and when you're playing a good team like that, it's hard to overcome. And, if you give up 30 points, first time they gave up more than 27, which we'll see is starting to become a habit again versus something they were really good at stopping beforehand. And Josh Allen just completely ices the game away and ensures that even if and when the Chiefs did get the ball towards the last final seconds, it wasn't going to matter because they weren't going to be able to tie it or win the game with their score anyway. Once you're in a several score deficit, it's hard to overcome that regardless of how good the Chiefs are.
Yeah.
I know some may still be confident at that moment getting the ball back down 9, but I think both of us had that feeling that you would kind of let it slip out too much at that point.
Yeah.
And we're going to see a trend in both of the games discussed that, the defense, which was the highlight of the Chiefs the first quarter plus of the season and the star of the end of the off season and postseason last year, they are going through some struggles right now. The key players are getting picked on because of injuries, and I think maybe some offensive injuries are coming into play as well. You can't have one particular player go down and everything just look out of sorts again.
Yeah.
But I think we've seen the Chiefs have had that experience both on offense and on defense. And as they're approaching this Friday game that we have as our final topic and one that we'll be at, of course, being at Arrowhead, I'm hoping that we finally see them, flip a switch and acknowledge that the games are tougher and treat it as such.
Yeah.
It still seems like right now they're more than willing to kind of coast through these last couple weeks and wait until like that final, point in time where they say, okay, we've got to switch it up. Last year it was Christmas. Like it took all the way till getting our butt whooped in silver and black Christmas. And that was finally the wake up call.
True.
I don't hope that it comes down to something as drastic this Friday. And I don't think the Raiders are as good of a team this year or as like surprising as a team last year, like they were last year into this year. I don't think that's a game that they blow, but the week after that where you face the divisional Chargers who are, playing very well, that's something to be concerned with. If you still don't see the type of intensity levels that December, January, and hopefully February football warrants. So, that's why it was called Bills Blues, not because we're necessarily upset or sad that they lost the game. It's more so that they didn't try to win the game. They didn't consider that a game that it was a must win because they knew the situation. The Bills had already lost 2 games before that. So losing that game still kept you ahead of everything regardless. And you're like, you had a loss like that to give up. But when you're competitive, you don't want to give up anything. You want to believe that you're the best week in, week out. And, the scoreboard and the stat sheet maybe didn't express it that day. And, of course, if and when the Chiefs and the Bills meet up in the postseason again, we'll see similar but not quite the same results, but the quite different intensity levels and preparation that's placed into the game.
Yes.
So, it was tough to see the Chiefs go down that way. But, Buffalo had been waiting for their form of revenge for, the last 10 months, arguably.
Oh, yeah.
So, it needed to be done. They needed to have that sense of accomplishment again. And the Chiefs needed to have that sense of failure. And then Andy Reid get a little bit more aggressive or gruff with his answers or with his coaching style. So, it's clear that some changes need to be made. And it's obvious that our next topic that we're about to discuss, those changes weren't necessarily made.
Yeah.
But, they are still moving in the right direction as the rest of this season is progressing. So small steps. You can't get to the Super Bowl in week 1. You have to get week and week and week to get there. Game after game, you have to earn your way there. So
Yep.
we know the Chiefs are very much capable of doing so. Before we go ahead and move on to our second topic, make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Red Kingdom Media. Be sure to give us 5 stars if you're listening to us on Spotify and our podcast. But leave a comment on our YouTube channel and also leave a like on the video to let us know that you enjoyed it. And watch out for a future live stream where you'll be able to communicate to us or a potential other show directly. We are looking for future guests for the Home of the Chiefs podcast. Now that this season is more than halfway done, we are definitely looking for some future guests for our show. So if you are a Chiefs fan or a fan of the NFL, in general, make sure to hit up the link in the description, and that way that gets us a time and date to communicate to you, and you could potentially be on an episode of the Home of the Chiefs podcast, talk about the most recent Chiefs game and what you're kind of projecting into next week. Or if you're a fan of another fan base, you'll be able to discuss how you got into that fan base as well. So if that interests you, like I said, make sure to hit up that form in the description. If you are a written content enjoyer, we have a daily and a paid Substack subscription for you. For Monday through Friday, you can have access to our daily updates, which gives you a succinct article every morning straight to your inbox to go over the latest news around the NFL. And if you'd like to sign up for our paid Substack, which is $5 a month, that gives you access to 2 articles a week. One that has to do with the pre-game, kind of predicting how the upcoming Chiefs game is going to go. And then an article soon after the game breaking down what were the key moments and all that during the game that allowed the outcome to be identified. So if you are a enjoyer of sports writing and would like to sign up to our Substacks, make sure to hit those links up in the description. And last but not least, we have t-shirts. You can get those by messaging Dale and myself, or basically anybody a part of our network of creators. Just let us know you'd like a t-shirt order, and we'd love to get that set up. And we'd love to have more of a selection of options for you guys. We just need to see the demand is up. We are moving on, and it is past the Panthers, barely past them, I'd say, as the Chiefs defeated the Panthers 30-27 in a win that was much too close for comfort. What do you make of the game, and who are your offensive and defensive MVPs?
Yeah, that game was scary. I thought it was done, and I thought they were going to lose. And I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be our second loss. But I was already kind of expecting that and accepting it at the end. But seeing that we won, and it was very, very slim margins on how we won, it's kind of making me nervous because seeing how our defense played, it wasn't the greatest. And there's a lot of problems that we do have, and those problems haven't been addressed yet. And I think that if we are going to go into the playoffs, those problems do need to be addressed because they are very significant and could play a role in us being the team that everyone targets because they see our weaknesses. But I think offensive, Noah Gray really stood out to me because he was the one that he had the most receiving yards. He had those 2 touchdowns. He showed up as that leader that we needed. I really think that he is a future Travis Kelce, and they're trying to train him to be like Travis Kelce, and they're trying to train him to take over Travis Kelce's spot when he decides to retire, which we lucky Kelce do not retire anytime soon. But when you do, I think that Noah Gray, I think we have a good solid player in Noah Gray. So, but I don't think that I could really see anybody being the defensive MVP for this game, because honestly, they didn't have that much they were going for, and they didn't have as much I feel as a lot of the previous games. They just kind of like you said, kind of coasted through, kind of like expected the win, which we cannot do because every single team is going to try and beat us. They're going to try their hardest to beat us. So really everyone was picked on the stat sheet, so I can't really say anyone in particular.
Yeah, I agree with you there. 27 points against the Panthers is pretty depressing to look at. You can kind of soften the blow a little bit knowing the Panthers had a bye week and that every team plays the Chiefs as close as possible and yada, 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 2 weeks to repair. But that was not the type of, performance this defense has, grown to be their expectation. They were getting thrown out all over the yard. A team that was really good at rushing the ball chose not to run the ball against this team. And kind of in congruency, the Chiefs offense also chose really not to run the ball either.
Yeah.
And that's why you had a near 60-point total between the two teams. Defense, nobody's really, living up to their standards. You can always shout out Chris Jones as somebody, but, he's not getting the finishes that, we would hope to get from him. And it's not necessarily a slight to him, especially if he gets held or double teamed on every single play. But as the leader, you still want to see him be fully executing at the highest level possible.
Mm-hmm.
I can sprinkle Mike Dana as somebody in that I liked on defense just because he's slowly coming back from an injury. And the couple times the Panthers did decide to run, it was straight to his side and he gained nothing or lost a yard or two. So that's just kind of like that skill set. And I know Felix is also that run stopping skill set. But now we just need to hope that our secondary and those linebackers in coverage aren't getting exposed every, reception like that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of what you were pointing at with your stat sheet comment. So for me, Noah Gray is a really good offensive target, but the Chiefs' passing offense is nearly back to where it used to be, you could say. So I could give it to Mahomes and Travis as the duo of, doing what they normally do. Mahomes had his scramble towards the very end of the game that allowed them to be in the super comfortable field goal range for their kicker who was just coming onto the team. And it's worth noting that for this Friday game, that kicker is also out. So the Chiefs will have a third kicker on their team. So hopefully that kicking doesn't become an issue in that game either. But it was not for the Panthers, and it was ultimately the deciding. The Chiefs had 9 points from their, this backup kicker of theirs. So the Chiefs are still very reliant on their place kicker. Mm-hmm. Red zone is still a major issue for this team. I think this offense dwells really well and can just move the ball down the field whenever they want. But then once again, in the red zone, they tend to tighten up a little bit. And, I could say the exact same thing for the Chiefs defense. Mm-hmm. The Panthers would march down the field and they get in the red zone, and we held them to, I think, about 4 or 5 different field goals for this game alone. So, that in one way is a plus, but you're also looking at the competition and saying, how are you letting them get the 30, 40, 50 yards across midfield all this continuously like this?
Yeah.
So I think the Chiefs are going to have to do some self-scouting these next couple games and see if they're in a position where they're kind of sabotaging their own future here and are not going to be able to exceed the expectations they have for themselves just because a couple of players or positions are kind of hindering where they want to be, and teams are starting to find these weak spots and targeting it over and over again. And we saw one team last couple of weeks get a win, and now we see this other team get very close to it as well. So I know from both of us, we're tired of seeing the super, super close games. but I feel like it's in the Chiefs' nature to play those games anyway. So even though we want to see them win by 30 points every game, they're just going to not do that. And the flow of an NFL game is just too up and down that you just can't have that sustained level. So, we've hinted at it. We like to see the Chiefs up their intensity. We like to see them take things a little more seriously, but they're going to have to feel like they got punched in the mouth. And the Bills game wasn't quite the punch that they needed. So we'll see which other game on their schedule they have left that officially gives them that challenge.
True.
And last but certainly not least, our final topic is the Silver and Black Friday, as KC has an AFC West showdown against the Raiders for unlucky Week 13, Black Friday the Week 13.
Oh my goodness, it is. I just realized that. What?
So expectations may have been tempered from last year. The Raiders are not quite the same team. They don't have the same type of allure, but their defense is just as tenacious as any other time.
Yeah.
So what are your expectations for this Christmas revenge game?
I don't know, man. I think it's going to be a fight again. And I think that's just the nature of this team is we're just going to have to fight for every game. I'm expecting them to be like the Raiders. I'm expecting the Raiders to be very focused on trying to beat us because they always are and they always have been, and I feel like we always have to bring everything we have to try and beat them most of the time. This team I feel like is not as strong as they were last year during the Christmas game, so I think that it's going to be a little easier to try and beat them, but it's still going to be hard, and I feel like it's still going to be a tough matchup, and I think we're going to see more from our defense on this game, just because they really are trying to pick up some slack from the previous two games and trying to come back and show that, they're still that defense that can get things done. So I think it's going to come down to the wire. I think the Chiefs are ultimately going to win, and I think the Raiders are going to come out with the loss on this one.
I agree with you. The Raiders are a little more wounded than the Chiefs are. It's still unclear which second or third string quarterback will be playing for the Raiders. But, we cannot, put a stamp on this Raiders team because that Raiders defense single-handedly beat the Chiefs last year.
Mm-hmm.
And the Raiders offense stalled, and the Chiefs defense did not allow anything in the entire second half of the game, and it didn't matter because the Chiefs offense could not put up the type of production needed to win the game.
Yep.
I don't think that same thing is happening this time around. I think if this offense isn't entirely amped to play this game, I think they're going to get a couple punches to the mouth, like I said, and overcome it, and then it's going to give them the taste of it for the rest of the year going forward. I'm not saying that it's going to be enough to scare the Chiefs and take them out of sorts, but I do think that the Raiders are going to give them a new level of challenge. And the Chiefs have been desperate for some challenge levels this year.
Mm-hmm.
And they've still kind of underachieved their way through them. This is a game I'd love to see the Chiefs go up early and put the game away well early on.
Yeah, that's true.
Let this game float into the background on TV for some people. People like us get to celebrate at the game. Get us out of the elements if it's super cold and snowy, as it's possibly forecasting to be.
Yeah.
So unlike Christmas, where Chiefs fans did not get to go home happy, I'm hoping that the opposite is true this year, just because the Raiders have a lot more issues and a lot more question marks. And yes, their defense is going to be prepared and ready to play us, but I feel like this Chiefs offense has a little bit more of an identity than it did last year at the same time. Isaiah Pacheco could possibly be making his return for this week, even if it's in a limited capacity. I think if the Chiefs are up 10-0 at any point during this game, it becomes a ground and pound game, and the clock and everything drain away.
Yeah.
And I think all of us would be very satisfied by that performance.
Mm-hmm.
If it somehow looks like the Raiders are throwing for 300 yards and several touchdowns like we've seen the past couple weeks, it may be a long afternoon in Arrowhead, but I still think regardless of that, the outcome remains the same, that the Chiefs will come out ahead and realize the severity that it was last year's Christmas game and the bad taste it left that allowed them to go on and win the Super Bowl. And I think they're going to take that same feeling, but bottle it up and use it against the Raiders to ensure the victory here on Friday, and then give them, essentially a mini bye week. You have that Friday into 2 Sundays from then before they play the Chargers in Arrowhead. So you get a full Thanksgiving weekend to evaluate the performances the last couple games and use that as fuel to take on the December into January stretch, where several good teams, including some divisional rivals, are on that schedule. And so you need to be wide awake and prepared for the challenges that lie ahead, because as we stated at the beginning of the show, the exciting three-peat where the undefeated season is no longer there, but you've already driven in the idea that this is a three-peat season. So we need to see the type of domination, near like Patriots level back in the day, of just beating a team and not caring by how much you got to pull against them. Let out everything. Don't hold anything back. Let loose. Don't be afraid of certain plays. Don't feel like you have to hide some things just to have the upper hand later. Every game is this intense battle, and you've got to come out ahead regardless. So I want the Chiefs to start having that feeling, but I just don't feel like it's going to happen until they feel like they have their own adversity. I'm trying to manifest and manufacture a certain level of adversity for the Chiefs, and they're just not feeling it to their own. So it's going to be a certain time and place, a certain game, a certain opponent where things just kind of click for them. If we get all the way to the beginning of January, till the end of the season, and we still don't have that type of spark moment that we're waiting for, then I might be a little bit more concerned.
True.
But there's just even though we are almost to the last quarter of the season, it still feels like there's so much NFL football left.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's how the Chiefs have always considered their season. It's like when you're a team that assumes you're a Super Bowl caliber, then you're playing 2 or 3 extra games a season. Then, insert name of bad team, where after the last week is over.
Yeah.
And the last couple weeks for them is trying to prove themselves or get a better draft pick. For the Chiefs, it's try to tighten up some things, get lineups and positional group rankings down and all that other stuff that doesn't get noticed, except those fine details when the moments happen. So I know we're all hoping for a good, clean, good old-fashioned Chiefs versus Raiders game this Friday. And, of course, we're all hoping the Chiefs come out ahead. But I believe that is all we have for you today. I hope you all enjoy your Thanksgiving. Obviously, be safe and enjoy the time with your friends and family and those that you love and who love you back. We'll be at the game on Friday, and we'll be breaking down the game and post-game right after Friday. but this is not the last content you guys have during this Thanksgiving week. We got a big special extra point / Rod Pick 6 video coming for you here in a couple days. I hope you all enjoy that and the effort that it takes, because really love getting stuff out to you, and more so getting the feedback you guys have for us back, whether you liked it or didn't like it. We still accept it and communicate to you regardless. So with that being said, hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy this week, and hopefully we enjoy a Chiefs victory to wrap up the end of our week. As always, go Chiefs!
Thanks for checking out this update straight from the heart of Chiefs Kingdom. We appreciate your passion, so please leave a like and follow us wherever you tune in from. See you next tailgate, your trusted source for all things Chiefs, Red Kingdom Media.